Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific Northwest, from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
The Gold Glove winning Mariners.
I will talk about the Mariners. It's officially the offseason. The World Series
Yes.
is done. Moves are already being made, none yet by your Seattle Mariners, but we're going to talk about some gold
Yeah, baby.
that could turn to platinum. We're going to talk about a few key spots on this team where there are perceived holes going into the offseason, how we think those will be filled. And then it's time to get a little wild, a little wacky, a little zany, and go some wild card action on you for a surprise Mariners move. But before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit about us. If you're looking for a guy, just had a pretty great day, except for technical issues with this stupid computer recently. But I'm not going to let that rain on my parade today because we're talking Mariners, and boy, do I love doing that. And if you're looking for a guy like that, you're looking for a guy like me, your boy Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy that also loves Mariners and probably has a better disposition because his computer was just fine. And hopefully that leads to some fire content in this episode. But you'll have to be the judge of that. And the person you'll be judging is Kane.
That's what happens. You spend a lot of money on a very, very good computer. Yeah, but I'm Kane. You can find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us, follow us, follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
New
So,
news comes out over the weekend. The Mariners get a little fun start here where not one, but two Mariners were bestowed upon
could have
them
been
the
three.
Gold Glove. Agreed. There's one that didn't even make
Should have
finalists.
been three. Josh Rojas got snubbed out of this award. What he
Wasn't
did
even
in
a
the
finalist.
field, I right. What he did in the field this year was bonkers. Nobody expected Josh. I believe he had like a four something war,
His
something around
defensive
there.
war was very high, and
Yeah,
I think he was tied for the leagues in defensive runs saved.
yeah, and did not get any nomination. Got snubbed from it, which is very unfortunate. But big shouts to the other two.
Yeah, let's start off with the one that was a little shocked that his name was on the ballot, and I felt even better when he got it because he is one of my favorite players, and that's Dylan Moore.
Little
Dylan
Demo
Moore, we
action.
talk about this all the time about his position flexibility. He wins it as a utility, and how well he plays defensively at a multitude of different spots, whether that's in the infield or in the outfield.
Yeah.
And you saw him have time at every spot in the infield besides catcher, and he's played everywhere in the outfield, including center field. So this is a guy that is just a good glue guy to have on your team. He's that
Yes.
important piece. And when you see the defensive metrics and you see him being able to win this award, I think that bodes well for his future staying on the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, but let's kick it over to the super glue of the team. That's Cal Raleigh. And well deserved, right? He threw out the most runners. Dude was just electric. He commanded the zone in every single way. The things that Cal has done is, he goes up against the other likes of like Adley Rushman and guys of that caliber. And Cal Raleigh has just been by far better than any catcher in the last, 3 years?
I wouldn't say that he was there the last 3 years defensively, but He
Last two
definitely.
years have been a big step in the right direction.
I
I
thought
mean,
that he should have been a finalist last year. He does
right.
have a good percentage on getting runners out when they are attempting to steal, those thieves. And he does a great job. His pitch framing really ramped up this year. I think he was near
Yes.
the top. And I think that's what really brought him to the forefront and really made him a front runner in all of our minds for that job. Pretty good at blocking as well. And he calls a phenomenal game. I think you have to factor that in.
Yes. Yes. Big props to him this year. Big year to kind of win it, right? With the potential of him getting an extension this offseason.
Only time will tell, you know. So, but it's been since I think the last time we got a gold glover. We also got two in the same season, if I'm not mistaken,
I believe
with
you are
Evan
correct.
White and JP
I
Crawford.
believe you are correct in that
Let's
factual
just
statement.
hope that it's not a 4 year break until we get another gold glover, because there are definitely guys on this team a la Julio Rodriguez that I think should be in contention for that this year. And then
Mm,
who knows, maybe if the Mariners have a good DH, they can win a gold glove, a golden batting glove.
sure. Sure.
All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes. There's some moves that have been made, some smaller signings. There was a trade like the day after the day of the new league year with Jorge Soler going from Atlanta to the Angels.
For Griffin Canny.
Yeah, I mean, good move for them. I don't
Yeah.
love it for the Angels, but it got us thinking. And when you really look at where this squad ended the season, they did make some decisions. They had declined the player option for Jorge Polanco, so he is a free agent. Luis Urias was not offered part of his ARB, so he elected free agency. And then you had, basically looking at position players here, you have Sam Haggerty that gets activated off the 60-day injured list to make it on the 40-man roster. So, as you sit at the end of the season, you look at pending free agents right now. It's really in the infield for this team, if we're being honest, right?
Yeah.
So you've got Jorge Polanco as your primary second baseman for the year. He is not on the team right now. You have intriguing players that have spent time there that are on this team, like Dylan Moore and Ryan Bliss. First base, you had Justin Turner. He is a free agent right now. You still have Luke Rayleigh on this team. And then the big question mark, we talked about him and his gold glove metrics and started off with a hot bat, but really got cool as the season went along. That's Josh Rojas. So if we're really looking at this team, we're seeing three places where there could be some changes, if
Yes.
we're being completely honest. So we're going to take a stab and give you our opinion on who would start for the Mariners on opening day at those positions. And if you want, you could throw in who they're platooning with if that tickles your
That's a
fancy.
good. That's a good. Okay. Do
So
I throw out what kind of we were talking about earlier on these ones, or is that the wild card thing you were talking about?
if the wild card that you had originally planned plays first base, second base, or third base, they can be in play. That's all we're talking about is those positions.
Cool.
And Kane, let's start with your thoughts on first base because that is the
So,
first number
all
in the
right. So with the first base, if you bring Justin Turner back, I do think he might play a little first base, not a whole lot of first base. I think you would put him more at a DH spot, especially take at bats away from Garver since of what happened last season. More if it continues that way, right? I think you're platooning. You have your fourth outfielder, Luke Rayleigh, there, and I believe Tyler Locklear comes out the gate starting on the Mariners. And if they don't make a trade, I think it's going to be Luke Rayleigh and Tyler Locklear going into the 2025 season.
Okay.
Coach Red.
In your thoughts with Rayleigh and Locklear, they give you a somewhat similar profile
Yeah.
of big power bats that have a tendency to strike out at a higher clip. I do think, as much as it pains me to say, but I really do think this team is going to focus on eliminating some strikeouts, right? I think that's part of the reason why Polanco is not back with this team
Yeah.
because of his high strikeout rate. Also, doesn't help that he's having off-season surgery and hopefully is ready by spring training. I think that was the other key factor. I don't think that Locklear starts the season at the big ball club. I think that there's still a little bit more seasoning, a little more holes to close up in that bat. I'm going to throw out two names. I do think Justin Turner is a player that the Mariners would like to have back, but it was kind of seen as his swan song this year. So, with that, don't know if he is going to come back. There's been some social media stuff as of a couple
A
weeks
little
ago.
buzz. There's a little
It
buzz about him potentially returning.
Well, the main thing was is it's about a month after the season's wrapped, and him and his wife are hanging out at Space Needle. So he's still in town, baby. So there's a shot.
Yeah.
But if we do not go with Justin Turner, I'm gonna find another guy that's gonna be somewhat of a 1 year stopgap. And since we're talking gold, might as well talk about Gold Glove first baseman Carlos Santana.
I would love it. I would love it if Slam Tana was back on this team. That would be huge.
I think that we talked about it last year with the addition of Blanco and the words of Mitch Garber saying that he's a glue guy and a real big leader. We know from experience what Justin Turner and Carlos Santana both bring to this team. I think
Yes.
that bringing either of them in, you're on a 1 year deal, and then that allows you to move forward with Tyler Locklear after this season.
That's
He doesn't have
fair.
a lot
That's
of
fair.
time in the minors. I do think that if there's some injuries, he's going to be an easy guy to come up.
Yes.
McCraley can play a little bit more in the outfield, but I do think when this offseason starts and they report to spring training that they hide his outfield glove and they just say, "Here, you got Perry Hill. Here's your first baseman's glove. Let's play first base, Luke." So I think that you see a combo of Luke Rayleigh and either Justin Turner or Carlos Slamtana.
Dude, I would love Slam Tana on this team. That'd be huge. All right, so second base now.
We are going to second base.
Okay,
Who is your second baseman?
I think they're looking overseas for this one. KBO superstar Hyasung Kim. He's a career 8 seasons, 304 hitter. Guy is a doubles machine. He gets on base. He's quick. He's kind of like the penultimate leadoff hitter that this team kind of needs. Like Victor Robles did fantastic doing it, right? But Pia Song Kim is the guy. He is one of the KBO's biggest superstars. They're finally posting him. He's 25 years old. And I believe that the Mariners can give him a good deal. That's also pretty team friendly as well.
Yeah, I've seen
So,
some projections that what his contract would somewhat look like is like a 3 year, like $18 million deal. So it doesn't break the bank.
right. And this would be huge for the Mariners because you're finally, I mean, this is a guy that, let's see, outside of his rookie year at 18, where he hit 188, 270, 276, 285, 304, 318, 335, 326. It's stayed pretty plus coming through the years. And they're playing 140 games, 145, playing a long season. So you can see that kind of stick around. And it's something that can kind of jumpstart the offense in a good way. And he's got a plus glove. The guy's quick. He can cover gaps. And I just think this would be a very good addition to this team, especially to make that next push, especially with the pitching staff that we have. So, Coach Red, what are your thoughts?
I think it's an intriguing piece. The other thing that I look at is I know that UCI average, but you're coming from the KBO over to the MLB. There's going to be
A bit
some
difference.
changes there. You know, you're facing a higher level of competition from pitching on a day in, day out basis. I think that with making that deal, that it hurts the farm fans, if you will, with the likes of Ryan Bliss,
I
basically
know.
blocks him out, moves him. You've got Cole Young and Cole Emerson, who were on fire this year, that don't profile as true shortstop at the next level. And I think that Cole Young probably looks more at second. I think Emerson's more of a third base type. So, in making that move, you really push that envelope down and kind of make them a little bit more expendable, if you will.
Yeah.
So, I I don't mind the idea at all, but I do think that they do not go internal; they go external, and I'm pretty sure I don't know how crazy this is, but Hyung Sung Kim, isn't there the other one?
The
The other
one from
one,
the Padres.
the Padres one. So
I do like that one too.
the reason that I would venture to go this route is because he may not be ready to start the season. This is a guy that was looked at when he filled in for Fernando Tatis when he was suspended, that he's a very good player, but with the shoulder injury and not knowing how well clubs might do it, and he's a Boris client as well, he's probably going to hold out. He's probably going to be getting a 1 year deal. And I think that that's what the Mariners need right now. And it's going to be that revolving door at second base that continues to go if he signs that 1 year deal. A little bit higher dollar value here, but
Could be
if he's
worth
not
it in
ready
the
to
long
start the
run.
season, you have Ryan Bliss and Dylan Moore playing at that spot. I think that that gives you a ton of speed, right? In the ability to have sneaky pop. When he's back healthy, he takes over that spot. He should be in a pretty good place. He's been playing shortstop. He had an injury to his shoulder, so get that swing right. The throws are going to be a lot shorter, and he'll have to be a little bit more position versatile. But I do think that for next season and for the future of the Mariners, that this is something that would align more what I think their timeline is on some of those minor league players who they are very high on.
Okay. I like it.
All right.
This was gonna be a little.
Third base.
Yeah. There's been a lot of speculation at the third base through social media lately. But one that I've seen and one that I've liked would be Yeimer Candelario from the Reds in a trade this offseason. I think this is a team where you owe Mitch Haniger 17.5 mil on the year
I think they
because
negotiate down as only 15.5.
doesn't matter. Still a lot of money for a guy who's not gonna really touch the field and in effect probably won't DH for you. It's his batting is just declined. And Yeimer Candelario did not have a great year this last year, but the Reds are probably going to be looking to offload that with Novelli Marte coming back, probably getting right. So you package Mitch Haniger with somebody and take on Yeimer Candelario's contract and need your starting third baseman to start or for the year. I like the guy's swing. When it's right, the dude mashes and it'd be a good 6, 7 hitter for us to kind of lengthen the line out or the lineup out a little bit more. So
I can see that happening in that money swap. The thing is, why it would be intriguing to the Reds is Mitch Haniger only has 1 year left.
yes.
Candelario signed a 3 year deal this last offseason, so you'd have 2 more years going there.
Yep.
The big name that everyone's talking about and has the Mariners linked to it, and the dollars that I see for Alex Bregman is like 5 years, like $183 million. Hell
No,
no.
thank
The main
you.
reason that I say that is because if you're going to pay that type of money, and when you've seen the Mariners make a play for a higher priced free agent in the Dipoto era, and slightly before that, it was the big Robinson Cano deal, and then it was the Nelson Cruz deal, right? Outside of that, you have not really seen those high price free agents signing with the Mariners. And if they are going to go after that guy, he's going to be a game changer for you. And I don't necessarily know if that is Alex Bregman. Going into his contract year, he did not have the highest average. He was banged up a little bit, he had some arm problems, which I don't love. And he doesn't strike out a lot, which I would say would be a plus to this team. But he's one of the guys that has benefited from playing half of his games in Houston and having the Crawford boxes in left field.
Yep.
So he's a guy that I'm gonna pass on. So you want to
I
know
just I
who,
just don't want it like someone from that team, right?
especially, I don't mind if there's someone from the Astros, but Bregman is one of the guys that is kind of poo poo for
And
us.
and also like tied into the scandal, right? Like
Yep.
screw that. No, thank you.
So my starting third baseman is going to be Josh Rojas. And the reason that I say that is Jerry Dipoto has made the comments that they're not going to spend big on outside free agents. They are going to up the payroll on this team. And hypothetically, that's to pay and extend some of the players currently on this roster. I think that Cal Raleigh, you talked about it, as a prime candidate. I think that you're
Yes.
probably going to see something happen with either George Kirby or
I
Logan Gilbert.
I think that Cal Raleigh is a higher priority than either
And
of
that's
those
why I think
two.
you would get done first, because I think
Yeah.
you really want to lock him down with what he was able to do throughout this whole season. I think that he's a piece that you can't afford. And he's going to, if the Mariners do make that push and do get to a World Series and win it, I want Cal Raleigh on that team. And I think he
He,
deserves to be on that team.
here's my thought, and I just you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. If you can reach a deal with Cal Raleigh, I think Logan takes a little less. Kirby would drive the price up.
I,
I
I would
think
agree with that.
Logan would be like, you know what? Because it showed through the year. Cal Raleigh was not George Kirby's catcher.
Hmm?
It was Mitch Garver for most of it and Seby Zavala,
Hmm?
right? For a little bit of it. Cal
Well,
did
it
not
was
catch
Cal.
him.
It was Cal until we moved Garver to catcher.
Right. But after that, it was every time George was on the bump, it was Mitch
Cal off
Garver.
day.
Right. So my whole thought process is you can have two, you just can't have three. And I think if you can get Cal locked down, Logan Gilbert's on this team for a very long time.
Yeah, and bringing it back to third base, I think that Josh Rojas, with what he does defensively and really slotting into the 9 hole for you, potentially the 8 hole, it's not the
Yeah.
worst thing in the world. He's not going to hit for a ton of power, but you saw what he could do earlier in the season, where when he gets hot, he could put the ball in play. He does put together good at bats. He does strike out more than I would like, but
Yep.
he does lengthen a lot of at bats. He's good at fouling it off. He does have a good eye for the zone, so he can drive that pitch count up a little bit. I also think that you'll see Dylan Moore get playing time at third, and
Yes.
the
You will.
position versatility with both he and Rayleigh really make them locks for this team. And that's why I'm not putting Dylan as a straight up starter anywhere, but he has the ability to start at multiple positions, basically everyone in the infield. So,
Yep.
but Josh Rojas is a guy that has grown on me, and he is another guy that can come in the clutch. And he did it early on, and he started to do it a little bit more at the tail end of the year. Middle was not the best time for all our Josh Rojas stands, but with that being said, he's a guy that I think is enjoyed by his teammates. He gives you plus plus defense in his first full year in the majors playing third base. I think that you find some things in those swings. You take a little pressure off. He's not batting near the top of the lineup like he was for a good chunk of the season. Having him down that lower spot, he's a little bit more protected, feel a little bit more comfortable, and knowing the game's not on his shoulder day in, day out, I think will help in the long run.
Fair enough.
All right. It's time to get wild with the wild card addition to this team. It does not have to be a first baseman, second baseman, or third baseman. Or if you want to, you could do that too. Be an outfielder, a pitcher, a catcher, whatever you want. Kane, what's your wild card addition to this team?
It is a first baseman. I do think that they could swing a deal for Christian Walker. I think that would be a huge bat for this lineup as well. And first base defense is us. I love Christian Walker, dude. He's a professional, pretty much day in, day out. And I think that this could be another piece in a long run at a World Series.
The caveat that I have for that for you is he was extended the qualifying offer. So
I
if
know, but if there was a chance, that's my guy. I Christian Walker would be huge.
I mean, if the Mariners were to make a play at Soto, I think he's really the only guy that is qualifying offer thing because with how well the Mariners have drafted, especially at the top of the
Mm,
draft the last couple, I don't know for 3 years, 4 years of Christian Walker if you take away the ammunition for a potential guy that you could see in the bigs for a long time because
fair,
how we've been
but
drafting early, giving up a premium pick is tough for me.
fair, fair. I just Christian Walker is just kind of like near that platinum level defense type of stuff too. So something we haven't really seen much in Seattle, and well, we might, but I just like that stick in the lineup. Coach Red,
Discounting
who's
Evan White once again.
sure, dude. What's your wild card?
I'm going to start off my wild card with a song.
Oh,
Take me home, country roads to the place I belong. Rocky Mama, ba 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 ba. Take me home, country
nice.
roads. Who do I want to come home? None other than the sea monster himself, Paul Sewald. Paul Sewald.
All right, all
With
right.
this team, Paul Sewald was not as effective this year as he was the year prior. There's plenty to see from that. He at one point lost the closer's job for the Diamondbacks. But if the Mariners are going to make a play and are going to mainly pay their interior and aren't going to upgrade their bats at the highest level, one area that I think that having more bona fide studs, if you will, I'm going to still call Paul Sewald stud because that's all he was for the Mariners. And coming back to a pitcher's friendly park is very nice. So, with that, upping your higher leverage arms and getting the game to Munoz is going to be key. You get Matt Brash back this year, not sure exactly when. Gregory Santos should be enough on the mend.
It should be on the opening day roster.
Yes. And then you have the likes of everyone else that sits there and ends up being a stud, right?
I think the other guy we get in the from that we got from the Diamondbacks for the Geno trade,
Vargas.
I think Vargas starts up too.
Well, you got Jackson Kozer coming back. You have Trent Thornton that's still on this team that can kind of be your long guy, your inning eater.
Yeah,
Bizzardo stepped up at the end of the season. And the other reliever that I wanted to say Topa, but he was like the reincarnation of Topa, Snyder came back to me. You have those different pieces. But what you don't have a ton of in that bullpen is high leverage experience from a more veteran type player. Yes, Trent Thornton has been around. Yes, Taylor Saucedo has been around. Munoz has been around now for a couple of years. But with Munoz, Brash, and Santos, they're still pretty young in the MLB game. Inserting Paul Sewald, who was beloved by all
yes,
fans, and that bullpen. That was a gut wrenching trade, but with the ability to bring him back, I think can help lengthen this bullpen even more and gives you another high leverage guy, whether you're dealing with injuries or you can't have too many of them. You can't,
Yeah.
but you don't. We know this. If it is a very low leverage system, Paul Sewald does not have a good game. I'll tell you that right now. So he still needs to be in that higher tier of leverage because in the low
Right.
leverage is not good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's one question since we are talking Mariners and somewhat futures with them. Um, Dom Canzone, what happens with him?
Make me put on my tinfoil hat here.
Please do. Please do. I feel like this is a very good question, right? Because we have seen the promise of Dom Canzone and somewhat of the power that he could bring to the table, kind of hitter he could be when he's down in Tacoma. It seems like he's tearing it up, but when he gets to the big squad, it's something different. And with this outfield as it stands of possibly a Julio, Victor Robles, Radio Rosarena / Luke Rayleigh, where's Dom Canzone fit into all this scheming?
There's really a handful of options, maybe mainly four.
Okay,
First one is going to be the least exciting. He starts in AAA.
of course.
Second option is he starts on the big club with your versatility of Dylan Moore and Luke Rayleigh to play infield and outfield, and basically Dylan being able to play every position along the infield. That gives you the opportunity to carry a Dom Canzone as that lightning in a bottle bat where he can platoon a little bit. I don't want to see him hitting off lefties. You hit some righties, give guys a day off, and try to catch that lightning in a bottle and really lean into one.
Mhm.
The other option is I think that if you are trying to unload the Mitch Haniger contract for a team that needs a powerful left-handed bat and has an opening in the outfield, I think that Dom Canzone, even though he's not a prospect status anymore, I think would have some intrigue around the league. It would be interesting to see if he goes to a team, say like the Yankees, who have a little bit shorter porch and should have some openings in the outfield, whether they'd want to make a play. But I do think that finding a more hitter friendly ballpark for him is key. And I think that in doing that, you're not giving up one of those top name prospects that
Mhm.
you see, shooting up the boards, but it also helps you alleviate yourself from some of that money.
Yeah. Okay.
The other, the other option is I think he could be involved in another trade as well because he's had some time in the bigs. I believe he's an ARB. He's not getting paid a ton of money, right? But there is someone whose no trade clause is up, and that's Luis Castillo, where I think he could be another package because if a team's making a push for Luis Castillo, which I think he's got a pretty good shot because you take him over Luis Cervino, you take him over Sean Manaea on the free agent. I think the only guy, because did Garrett Cole like opt out but opt back in to his deal? Is that what I read?
I think is like the Yankees put it to where they had a clause to opt it in, and they did that. But they just like added some extra money on
Got it.
top of everything.
So you've got Corbin Burns, who has future like lottery pick, right? Qualifying offer.
I also think that the Baltimore Orioles are going to sign him to a long-term deal.
Exactly. So when you look at the trade deadline, I think that Luis Castillo is better than Jack Flaherty,
That's fair enough.
right?
Fair
So
enough.
what you saw go for those rental starters this last year, guys with a year and a half on their deal, there were some big time prospects that went that way. And if you're a team that is making a push and going after Luis Castillo, you're going to be in a position where if you have another hole, to sprinkle it in without giving up one of those top tier guys. If you have an immediate need for a power left-handed bat, Dom Canzone gives in that trade to make it a little sweeter, and then probably lightens your prospect load that you're going to have to give up, right? Depending on what you're doing, unless you're unloading both of them for a slew of blue chip type prospects. Looking, if you're having those two in a package, you're probably looking at minimum one top 100 guy and potentially two top hundreds, with one guy kind of being on the fringe, the last
Mhm.
25. So I think that those are the three realistics, expectations of where Dom Canzone is at the start of next season. And that's all I got on Dom Canzone.
Billy, is a good question to put you on the spot in.
Yeah, I did talk to you about it a little bit this weekend because it popped in my head. So thanks for bringing it back up, because
You're welcome.
I do think it's an intriguing idea, because as we sit today, he wasn't on the team down the stretch. I don't think that the outlook is too high for him to be a regular contributor on this
No.
team, especially this year. And when you really look at it after that, you got some guys coming up through the minors. Maybe what is it? Michael Arroyo moves to the outfield, and he's a guy.
Mhm.
You got Laz that could be chomping at the bit after another full year in the minors to be knocking on the door like Julio. Just like you just have to answer it. It's like the police are at your door. You got to answer. They got to tell you if they're cops, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that Canzone's in a weird spot, and I think that he would be a better asset for another team than ours as we sit here today. So I think that's why I could see him move. But it's not just going to be Dom Canzone, I think, going in a one for one player of similar
Like
types,
it's
right?
it's either it's either he gets dealed with a pitcher or Harry Ford's in that trade as well.
Well, I think that it's trade with the pitcher, or I think that he's an intriguing piece where you wouldn't have
Yeah,
to eat as much of Mitch Haniger's contract, and it would heighten your prospect return than if you were
yeah,
trying to eat half of Haniger's money and have someone try to take him, and the other team's giving you like their 27th best prospect in return, right? That's what
yeah.
you'd see if he's going solo. So I think that Canzone is an intriguing piece to be included in there.
All right. I like it.
And we would like you to give us a little follow on social media. You can find me, your boy, Coach Red, on X at The Real Coach Red, on Instagram at The Real _ Coach Red, TikTok at The Real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a comment or dose. Kane, where you at?
Find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. False, false, false. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.